This week on Jersey Matters, Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli's first television interview since losing to Governor Phil Murphy in a closer election than most expected. A high school student in Howell Township was arrested after a disturbing social media post that comes after the Michigan school shooting. We talk with Howell Police Chief Andrew Kudrick. And how to fight back against porch pirates this holiday shopping season. Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. Let's get right to my interview with former Assemblyman and the Republican candidate for governor, Jack Ciattarelli, who lost an oh-so-close election to Democratic incumbent Governor Phil Murphy. Assemblyman, thank you so much. You're always gracious with your time. I know you want to look ahead now to the next election and to possibly some election reform, but I want to look back. And before I do, I do want to say that you shocked the world. I was watching CNN and MSNBC and the networks, and they were stunned by what was happening in New Jersey. You thought that was going to happen all along, but you came up just short. What did you take away from this election? What could you have done differently?
First, let me say, Larry, I wasn't shocked. History told us this was going to be close. I really thought we were going to carve out a 5,000 or 10,000 vote margin win. And as I went all up and down the state, because I just don't hang out in comfortable Republican circles, the vibe I was getting, the pulse I was taking of New Jersey, and said that we were going to win. Here's what I need to do differently. Here's what I need to do better. We need to make better inroads in the Black and brown communities. I didn't do that good enough. I certainly could have better deployed my lieutenant governor candidate, Senator Diane Allen, who's been a champion on women's issues and women's rights. Phil Murphy beat me up pretty heavily in that area. And the other thing I could have done differently is convinced independent groups out there that could have been more helpful, that this was a horse race and it was going to be a photo finish. You know, the conventional wisdom always is that New Jersey is a deep blue state. This election proved once again, we're not deep blue, we're truly a purple state. And the other thing that Republicans just need to do, we need to be better at vote by mail ballots. I beat Phil Murphy on the machines. He beat me through the mail, and that's what won this election.
Do you have to be better on vote by mail ballots, or do you want to try to eliminate this universal mail-in ballots? Because nobody can prove voter fraud when ballots get sent out and come in later. Nobody could prove that. And so I'm not questioning the results of the election, and I know you didn't, but it certainly does seem ripe for fraud. Is it the best way to run an election?
Hey, a 2006 commission chaired by Jimmy Carter looked at voting reforms, and they came to the conclusion that the greatest potential for voter irregularity and fraud were vote by mail ballots. Are there isolated cases of fraud and irregularity? You bet. Is there widespread or systemic fraud or irregularity that dictates the outcome of an election? No, there is not. Just because we get our butts kicked there, and I mean we Republicans, doesn't mean there's fraud. We need to do better. And we need to take a close look at those 1 out of 4 Republicans who vote only in presidential years, communicate with them, knock on their door, and get them to participate in gubernatorial elections, either by vote by mail or through early voting. If we don't do that, we're not going to win.
I want to stay on this point for 1 second because I believe it's important. It's not just happening in New Jersey, but across the country. And you tell me if I'm right on this. It seems to me that the Democratic Party knew they had a problem in getting their voters out to the polls. They were losing even though they had more registered voters in state after state. They were able to get the passion with their voters for some reason. This was the solution. It wasn't about getting more people to vote. It was getting their voters to vote.
Larry, I'll say this. The Democrats get all kinds of credit for enfranchising voters and all these progressive voting reforms. Let's be honest. They would never put in these reforms if they didn't have a 1 million voter registration advantage. There are 1 million more Democrats than Republicans in this state, but I'm not going to sit home and cry in my soup over the landscape. They're in control. They get to make the rules. This is the landscape. Let us compete. We can. This election proves that. And history proves that. And listen, I think it's silly when people just say the Democratic nominee is going to win because there's so many more Democrats. That's an insult to Democrats. It's saying they'll vote for anybody, no matter how bad they may be. But Phil Murphy was a low energy candidate. His campaign was low energy. We were right where we needed to be. We just needed a few more Republicans to turn out.
Well, you don't waste any time ever in saying that you're going to run again. Right away, you were there saying you're going to run. And what is the wisdom behind that? Because not many people do that.
Well, I don't know if it's wise or not. Consultants might tell you differently. I've just always played it straight with New Jersey. And listen, I wish the governor well. I want him to be successful. I'm not a hyper-partisan that wants the governor to fail. That means the next 4 years will be hell for the people of New Jersey. I don't want that. But I do have this strong sense that 4 years from now, we're still going to have the worst property taxes in the nation. We'll still be the worst place in the nation to do business, particularly for small business. We'll still have a bloated, inefficient state government corrupted by special interests. We need to support our state and local police. We're not doing that right now. And we need to get our public school curriculum back on track in teaching critical life skills and vocational training. We're not doing that. And I just have a feeling those will still be the issues of the day.
And you won't be running against an incumbent, and you probably won't be running against somebody with that much money. So it seems like the playing field is a little bit more even.
Hey, we matched him dollar for dollar in campaign finance here in New Jersey. He did outspend me 5-1 in independent expenditures. And that's one of my regrets. I wish some of the organizations out there that could have been more helpful to the campaign had weighed in. They didn't. That's my challenge. We'll be better prepared for that next time.
What did you learn from this election, and not just with your running, but across the state, the way that Democrats lost across the state? What was the message from this election?
What I learned is what I've always believed. If you go out and talk to the issues, kitchen table issues, common sense solutions, talk about the things that are bothering New Jerseyans, your message will resonate. The other thing that this election told me, which is something I believed, is if you spend considerable time in South Jersey, because they're an equal partner in this, make them feel like an equal partner. They deserve that. They will respond in kind. And you take a look at the pluralities we developed, generated out of South Jersey, it's one of the things that made this election very close.
You made a compelling argument about you can't cry about the election results or the way it's being run. You just have to live with whatever it's being run. But you're going to spend the next few years looking at the way elections are run, right? And
well, what I'm going to spend time looking at is how Republicans can do better in turnout through early voting and vote by mail. I beat him on the machines, Larry. I beat him on the machines.
I'm talking about it on election night, talking about the fact that you shouldn't have to wait 10 days to know who won an election.
Well, no, there are some reforms we need. We need uniformity in the way the county clerks present the data on election night. We can't have counties that give us a machine vote at 10 o'clock and then 5 hours later give us a vote that includes the vote by mails. And suddenly a county goes the other way. I was ahead in Bergen. 5 hours later, I'm not ahead in Bergen because the tally 5 hours later included vote by mail ballots. That does nothing to restore people's confidence in our election system. We need uniformity. We need standardization. And I do believe the legislature heard what I had to say in my concession speech, and they're working on that. But I'll be working on Republicans doing better by vote by mail. That's something I'll be focused on for the next 12 to 24 months.
So when does the campaign start?
Well, listen, last time around, I declared 22 months ahead of time. And this is the largest small state in the union. So we'll get around to doing that sometime in 2024. But for the 2022 and 2023, I'll be working to improve our performance through vote by mail and early voting.
Well, Jack, I always appreciate the fact that you were always available. I can't say that about our current governor, and I can't say that about some politicians in New Jersey. And I really appreciate that. And I think that the voters and the citizens of New Jersey appreciate it too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Larry. I do believe the job that you do, you're the fourth branch of government, and the transparency is good for democracy. And I've got a message I think resonates with New Jersey, so I'm happy to share it. So thank you.
Okay, it'll be fun to watch you over the next 4 years. Jack Ciattarelli, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Larry.
Republican candidate for governor, Jack Ciattarelli. Next, a student is arrested in Howell Township after an online threat. We'll get the latest from Chief of Police Andrew Kudrick.